teacher burnout happens because we're not prioritizing correctly. I made my kids go outside and they're going bonkers because they're like, Mom, we're bored. And I'm like, I know, that's the point. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Marilyn from Teach Marilyn Be Style, and on this channel you will find Monday motivations like this one. This is the first of this year, and vlogs on Thursdays. So the very first Monday motivation of 2021 is all about priorities. Are you keeping the most important things the most important things? So really quickly, I feel like there are two different ways that I can share with you on like what has worked for me to keep my priorities straight. The number one thing that I would recommend is to reflect. Just spending some time reflecting on each day is something that can help you remember what's most important. I think like as an educator, I would often forget to reflect on why a lesson didn't go well or why it did go well. Sometimes they went fine and sometimes they totally tanked. Sometimes you spent like, you know, hours and hours planning it and it just did not go as planned. But reflection, I think in any area of life, is super helpful because it just allows you to remember like why you're doing what you're doing. It answers those kind of deeper questions rather than just what happened. Reflection can be done in tons of different ways. You can write one little line at the bottom of a planner. You can write an entire journal page. You can keep a gratitude journal. The trash truck is here. Super loud. I typically think of reflection being done at the end of the day versus at the beginning, but it can be done at the beginning because if you reflect on your why and you think about what really motivates you to do what you do, why you're called to do these things, then it will help to keep you oriented and keep your priorities straight. Even just chatting with another teacher, like sending a DM to somebody on Instagram or texting your partner teacher after school and saying like, hey, how'd it go? Or this is how my lesson went. I just wanted to vocalize that, or I just wanted to like let somebody else in on how it went. It's super helpful. Okay, so reflection. But obviously that means that you're gonna write something down. So it would really help to like write down what your priorities are. Like what is the number one most important thing to you in your life? What are those things that you're really intentionally going after in order to build the life that you want? Now I can share what mine are, but obviously like we all have different beliefs. We all have different priorities because we're in different stages of life. And so I'll share mine, but obviously they're my own personal ones. And I'm not trying to say that anyone should have these, but I think it's helpful sometimes to see what other people do or what they think. Okay, I have 4 things on my list. I feel like I've shared these before on here at some point, maybe, I don't know. I rarely go back and watch my YouTube. I don't usually go back and watch my YouTube videos, so I don't know. I think it was in my avoiding teacher burnout video, like the old one. Anyway, all right, so my 4 priorities are God, family, work, and then everything else. I know that's super general and super broad, but if I keep those 4 things in that order, my life goes so much better. It just does. There's no like explaining it. That's just the way it is. So what does that mean? How does that work itself out? Well, let's take that one at a time. So for me, I know my priorities are getting out of whack when I'm not intentionally spending time with God. I do that by reading my Bible. I do that by spending time in prayer. I do that by going to church on Sundays. I do that by putting on worship music. Like there are tons of different ways that I can spend time with God intentionally. And I know that like, I always notice for my own spiritual health that when the rest of my life is feeling really out of control and spiraling, that's the number one thing that is not being cared for. And so I always need a reset on that number one, and recentering myself on the Lord. Number 2 is my family, and even that has kind of a hierarchy in and of itself, right? I need to take care of myself. I'm in my family, so that means myself, that means my marriage, that means my kids, that means our extended family, but in that order. And taking care of myself, I don't mean like putting myself above other people. I mean intentionally carving out rest throughout the week so that I'm able to serve others well and have really rich, intentional relationships with them. And family, I think, also includes friends, right? I think so. So number 3, work. I think that means working with diligence, but also having really good boundaries. I think that's super important. If you want to keep your priorities straight, you have to have good boundaries so that work stays in its place. If we've learned anything from Hallmark movies, it's that being a workaholic is not a good idea for anyone in any stage of life. So yes, work. It's so easy for me to want to not work because I want to do things like this channel. Like I want to vlog, I want to edit, I want to spend time on social media connecting with people. I love doing that. It's really a passion of mine, is to connect with other people and just to make people feel seen and know that like I really do care about you. However, this channel and social media fall into the everything else category. I'm not getting paid to do these things. I'm not. As much as I love my friends, if I prioritize friends over family, things are out of whack. If I'm spending more time on my phone, watching view counts, looking at analytics, looking at followers or likes, and worrying more about that than I'm spending time in my Bible and prayer, then things are not as they should be. How do you change that? How do you get things back to how they're supposed to? How do you reset? Well, I already suggested reflecting, and I think that's fantastic. I think that can be enough of a mindset shift to help you get back on track. The other thing that I would suggest that I know works is adding things in one habit at a time. Habits won't form on their own. I mean, like when you're adding a habit in. So for me, if I want to keep God as my number 1, then I need to be studying my Bible. I need to spend time in prayer. I need to just put worship music on, but that's not going to happen on accident. It's just not. I need to intentionally, I need to intentionally set that time aside or schedule it in so that I know it's going to happen. Likewise, my own mental health, my relationship with my husband and kids, those things are not going to just magically be fine. If I don't intentionally care for each of those things, they're going to start deteriorating. That's just the way that it goes, right? So it's really important to have good habits. Same thing with work. If I have no boundaries at work, I was actually just looking at Reggie Wood's Instagram stories, and she talked about having really good work boundaries. As a brick and mortar teacher, it's so important to work your contract hours and then stop. Just stop working when your contract hours are up. There will always be more work to be done. There will always be more prep to be done. And I know that it feels like you're not a good teacher, like you're not a good teacher if you're not working outside of your contract hours. Trust me, my first year teaching, I worked like every single school day. I was there until like at least 6 p.m., if not 8 p.m. I knew all of the evening custodians by name, which, I mean, that has its benefits. It's fine to do that, but it was not good for me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally. It was not good for my health at all. And so all of those things suffered. Yeah, so it's really important to have good work boundaries, and then also to like use your contract time wisely, and just to say like, I'm only gonna answer my emails during my contract time. I think it's okay to say, I'm gonna close this laptop and put it over here. I know that's a little bit different if you're a VIP kid or OutSchool teacher because you're not paid to prep for your classes. So that gets a little tricky. You need to really manage your time well. Like set a timer and say, I'm only gonna prep for these classes for this amount of time. Or like for OutSchool, I'm only gonna plan for classes for this amount of time. Because if you sacrifice your family time, your mental health, any of these other priorities over work, you're going to suffer for it. We all know this. We all know this. And then everything else. So like social media, YouTube, I feel like I have to say this out loud. I have seen entrepreneurs, I have seen in your pocket. Just put it in your pocket. I feel like we have to talk about this. I have seen entrepreneurs, vloggers, I've seen them very successful at what they do. Maybe even people that aren't necessarily being paid for that stuff yet, sacrificing family, mental health, financial health, spiritual health. Like they're sacrificing the health of those things in order to do the everything else category. And the reason I'm calling that out is it just saddens me to see like people that I would consider really successful, people that like inspire me or I would wish they could be my mentor. Like I see the outcome of the work that they're doing and they're hustling hard and they're doing this work, but at what cost? I'm not willing to sacrifice my family time anymore. I had to have several conversations with James last year about coming to bed at 2, 3, and 4 a.m. because that's how long it took me to edit a video, or dealing with the repercussions of my kids being unsupervised while I filmed a YouTube video. I have to make the commitment to shift my mindset so that my priorities stay what they are. And so how do I do that? I have to do that one habit at a time. And that's like a whole other video to talk about habit formation. If you have good books about forming good habits, please put them in the comments below so that we can share. I can think of a couple that'll probably be shared, but they're worth sharing again. The one thing I will say about habit formation though, is that you can only successfully form one new habit at a time. So we can think of 1,000 great habits that you should be doing. Just pick one to track. So if it falls under your number one category, and you know it's gonna help you achieve what you want to in that category. So if it's intentional family time, then choose a habit that will help you achieve that. So if that means turning your phone off at 8 p.m. Oof, like that felt like a gut punch as I said it out loud because I don't do that. If it means scheduling a family game night, like these things are going to cultivate those relationships and keep them a priority. They are. Do you have regularly scheduled date nights with your significant other? If you don't, then are you really prioritizing that relationship? And they don't have to be expensive. You don't have to be going out on the town, especially if your town is closed down. Where are you gonna go? Figure out how to creatively have a date night in. It might mean setting a really good and strict boundary with work and saying contract time is done. I'm done working and I'm gonna shut my computer down and walk away. I'm working on that for sure. But for me right now, the one habit I'm cultivating, and the reason it's just one at a time is that one habit, when you try to like literally track that habit to the point of success, meaning it becomes a habit that you just do naturally because you've worked on it, the success of creating one new habit is 80%, around there. If you add a second habit at the same time, the success rate falls to 35% of either of those, let alone both, becoming a habit. If you add a third habit or more, it's almost zero. So doing a complete overhaul of your life, or saying I'm gonna exercise and eat really well every single day, is just too much. It's like most people are not gonna find success in that because it's just not sustainable to build habits that way. You really have to build them one at a time. You know, I'm no expert, but the experts do say that this is true. So think about your number one priority. Think about a habit you can add into your life that you can track that will help you gain success in that one area. And that might be reflecting. That might be your new habit that you add in, is just reflecting on your day. Writing down one line at the bottom of your planner each day. Keeping a gratitude journal at the end of each day. But if you do that in addition to anything else, you're not gonna probably sustain that. It could help to have an accountability partner, but at the end of the day, you are your accountability partner and you're gonna need to decide to do it. My habit that I am committing to for the next 30 days is to soak my Bible verses. Here's what that means. I shared about this in a previous video, but I'll share it again here. S is for scripture. So the scripture verse that I'm studying, I'm gonna write it out next to the letter S. And then letter O is observation. I'm gonna observe what it says. Just like literally, what does it say? I'm gonna put it in my own words, or what stands out to me about that verse. And then A is application. How will I apply that to my life, or how will I ask God to apply that to my life? And then P stands for prayer. And it's just, it could be one line prayer. It can be praying in my mind. I can write it out. I mean, at minimum, it's 4 sentences that I'm writing down, so that doesn't take me that long. And if I can do that at the beginning of every day, I feel like my priorities, the rest will really fall into place. So obviously, like, utilizing tools like that, they're great, but if I'm not actually applying those things into my life, then the rest of my priorities could totally be out of whack, which, let me tell you again, like last year they kind of were. Teacher burnout happens because we're not prioritizing correctly. So please take care of yourself, whatever that looks like. I really do want to know, like, what are your priorities? Will you share those with me? I know that's a really personal question, but just even in a general form. So like how I did, just give me your like top 2, 3 priorities. What are you going to really work to keep in order? And if you have a habit that you want to work on, sometimes it helps to just type it out, because then there's like this immediate accountability. What is one habit you can work on for this month? And unfortunately, habits don't only take 21 days to form. It really depends on the habit, and it depends on how close you are to it, like how achievable it is. So it can take anywhere from like a couple weeks to several months. So depending on what you choose, it's not just gonna take 21 days to fix that habit in place, unfortunately, despite what is being said in the world. So yes, please share a habit that you are gonna work on, or a way that you wanna reflect each day on your priorities. And I'm really looking forward to what this year is gonna bring, because we are bringing the energy, I think. I feel it. It feels different to me, even though our circumstances haven't really changed much, right? Like from the 31st of the last year to the 1st of this year, our circumstances don't change, but I feel the energy is different. Anyway, I really hope that this encourages you. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye. This should be posted on January 4th.